Okay, I think we can start. And hello, everyone, and welcome to the Department of Economics seminar series. This is going to be the second seminar of the semester, and we are very happy to host Professor Daniel Balsalobre-Lorente from the University of Castilla-La Mancha, Spain. Sorry for my pronunciation. And before we begin, let me briefly share a few words about our guest's academic background. Daniel Balsalobre-Lorente holds a PhD in economics and is a full professor in the Department of Applied Economics at the University of Castilla-La Mancha, Spain. Professor Balsalobre's current research interests encompass public finance, energy economics, economic growth and environment, as well as tourism, innovation, and globalization processes. He has authored more than 150 publications in leading international journals and book series, including energy economics, energy policy, sustainable development, technological forecasting and social change, and the Journal of Environmental Management, among many others. Professor Balsalobre also contributes significantly to the international academic community through his editorial work. He currently serves as editor-in-chief of Evaluation Review and associate editor of Gondwana Research from Elsevier, in addition to serving on the editorial boards of several other Web of Science index journals. His scholarly excellence has earned him global recognition. He ranks among the top 2% of researchers worldwide, according to the prestigious Stanford University list, and has been named a Clarivate highly cited researcher in 4 consecutive years, starting from 2022 to 2025. He has also received distinctions such as the Regional Best Researcher in Social Sciences Award in Castilla-La Mancha. We are very pleased to have him today with us. And Professor Balsalobre, the floor is yours.
Okay. Sir Kortman, thank you so much for this opportunity, for inviting me to this seminar. I would like also to give my thanks to Professor Kousal and the institution for inviting me to this seminar. It's for me a privilege to stay here with you, sharing some ideas related with new lines of research and how the things are now developing in global context. And I would like to talk about which is the current context of the economy according to my point of view, and which are the new lines of research. Where during the last 20 years, we have suffered a revolution in the research application world and also in the academic world, where there have been a lot of changes, especially related with the number of publications, the number of new lines, especially in science like economic. We have suffered an overexplosion of paper. We have developed several lines of research, but most of them are very old-fashioned in very short time. For example, if we talk about environmental processes, at the beginning, it was very easy to find new lines of research, but nowadays there are so many papers, there are so many research, and most of them are showing the same things. For that, during the last 5 years, have appeared in the global context some very exciting processes that even some of them are really harmful, or they are not good in terms of population, but very amazing from researchers. One of them is the appearance of COVID-19. Well, this presents a turning point in the global relation among blocks. For example, from my point of view, there is the after and before COVID has been a turning back to the low globalization process because of this situation. We have a lockdown during more than a year that affected all economies, developed and developing ones, but especially it's supposed a new era where the research and the interconnection in the academic world has been reinforced. But at the same time, we have suffered the consequence of this globalization. On the other hand, another dramatic process that had appeared during this decade has been the conflict between Ukraine and Russia. And for me, this in this Trump administration era has have in play a reinforce of separate blocks. For example, on one hand, we have the old-fashioned West Europe and United Kingdom in connection with the United States and Canada. And on the other hand, we have more advanced Asian economies that are developing new technology, new advances. And maybe Russia is in an isolated position now, but in contact with countries like China. Well, what do I want to say with this? I want to say that the globalization process has been reorganized during this year. And in this context has appeared something that is really exciting and is growing very fast, is the appearance of artificial intelligence. Well, the AI, as we know, has appeared very fast, are implementing in all sector, in all industry, but I'm going to focus in the role that AI has exerting over sustainable development. Well, I guess you can see my presentation here, where I'm just going to present a very small empirical evidence of some results that we have obtained in previous papers related with AI. Well, even traditionally, we have worked with variable life information and communication technologies, like for example, is this example. Nowadays, we have some data sources that allow us to implement the role of artificial intelligence in energy processes. For this, I would like to talk about this in the name of smart.
Sorry,
Yes.
did you change your slide, or we are still on the first one?
I'm in the second one.
Could you reshare your PowerPoint, please?
Yes, sure.
We couldn't see it.
Okay, wait. Yes, sure. No?
Yes, we can see highlights now.
Okay, perfect. So here we have traditionally we have used the ICT as proxy of AI, but nowadays we have several sources that allows us to use this variable. On the other hand, in this paper, we talk about the role of natural resources. It's not something like a happy idea. It's something very important because if we connect natural resources with the development of countries, we can hypothesize the natural resources course. What it means? It means that in many countries that are rich in natural resources are suffering low development levels, and at the same time, they are also experimenting a high level of corruption or administrative interpretation of the situation that reduce the potential. But for that natural resource, I think that is a very exciting variable that not only in the role with environment of economic growth, also can help for understanding some economies or some blocks, especially in South America or African countries. So at the same time, in this model, we also have used the variable tourism. Why? Because tourism, based on the tourism-led growth hypothesis in some selected countries, is a very critical variable for the growth of the economies and advancement, especially if we take into account some processes like COVID and in forthcoming year, we will experiment new changes in tourism, especially related with the usage of AI, and also the smart energy usage. For this, it's something that we need to take into account. Well, for this empirical evidence, this is not a very seminar paper with a big consequence, but this is a main or a line of research that allows us for understanding which is the role of ICT or AI in the future, or how can we handle with this variable in the way that I consider that this is the future in the research. The future, but the short future, maybe we can talk about 2, 3, 5 years, but after that we will have another hot topics. For example, nowadays there are some studies that also are considering that AI is a bubble and the new stage is the quantum technology. So, for example, we need to understand that AI is something that will be implemented in our society in forthcoming years, but at the same time, we can find that this effect that also we had a financial crisis in first decade of this century, the 2008 financial crisis, maybe the AI bubble will be the next big bubble or a big crash, especially in the market, of financial market. So for this, we need to work with this variable, but also maybe in forthcoming year, we will replace this variable with quantum technology, quantic technology in the process of technological advances. So many students, we have different results. At the beginning, when we were talking about the role of ICT, we found a pernicious effect over environment, especially if we're talking about cryptocurrency, of minery of cryptocurrency during the beginning of the last years of last decade and this year, the overuse of energy, especially in developing countries, were very dramatic. But nowadays, there are new studies that consider that the role of AI are increasing the efficiency of energy sector, and also in traditional industry are replaced by high-tech industry, where also the demand on and the expectation of the enterprises are very connected with this ICT. So we can see that at the beginning of the process of ICT, the environmental damage was standing, but nowadays in the smart economy, these processes are reducing. Also, there is a moderation effect between AI and traditional energy sectors, and also between AI and other processes. So we can see that AI and ICT are a factor of modernization of the economies. It's not something new, but we can see that it's something exponential. It means that the context that we were 5 years ago is totally different than our current context. And also, I think that in forthcoming year, we will have to develop, will appear new type of employment, will disappear other employees, will need to reinforce our research or our academic with AI, and try to implement all these in many disciplines: economy, science, physics, medicine, law, also law. Many students are also considering that AI can help in some traditional studies like psychology, law, etc., in a different way that, for example, we can say in other type of studies. But if we talk about economy, some people ask, and I'm going to ask this question, and when we finish the debate, I would like to put this question. Some people ask, is the economy an art or a science? we will talk about this when we finish the presentation because this is very related with the things I'm telling now. So at the same time, AI can also promote the Agenda 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goal because of all these processes and enhancing the energy sector and also the environmental degradation. Well, for validating this process or in the context to talk about ICT or AI in different contexts, we prepared some model where we made an interaction or moderation effect between ICT or as proxy of AI in the PAX paper and some related variable. One is with urbanization, another with natural resources, another with tourism. Well, if we check up this model, this is a very simplistic model where we use a main variable carbon emission as variable of environmental degradation, and we also use economic growth, another variable for explaining these degradation processes. Well, previously we used some traditional empirical strategies for econometric processes, checking unit root tests, eco-integration tests, aimed for can run the selected econometric model, AMG, and two-stage GMM processes. We use two models because of in some cases we have we can open a debate. For us, we reinforce the result if with different estimating strategies we obtain the same result. So we use these both and to reinforce the result because in both estimation result we obtain the same sign of the value. At the same time, all selected variables are related with some sustainable development goals, 11, 17, 12, 8, and 13. So this study was focusing the role of ICT over sustainable development goals because of another maybe old-fashioned or overexposed variable or effect over economies, the appearing of some studies that are focused on sustainable development goals. I think that during the last 2-3 years, most of economy-related environmental or energy variables are connected with sustainable development goals, and we have to keep it till a new fashion. So according to with our result, we obtained that, for example, the linkage between economic growth and carbon emission is positive in all the models. Urbanization also present positive. ICT as proxy or artificial intelligence represent a negative connection with carbon emission. Natural resources in all the models are positive, and tourism are also positive. So the only variable that present a negative effect over carbon emission is ICT. So in this context, we can see that this variable will help to explore the smart economy and the smart energy. At the same time, we have used in model 2, 3, and 4 the interaction between ICT and selected variable. In model 2, we check the interaction between ICT and urbanization, obtaining a negative role. This means that ICT reduces the pernicious effect of urbanization over environment. In model 3, we obtain same result over natural resources, and in the final one with tourism. I'm going to pay a special attention to the first and the third one because are the more related nowadays or the easier for understanding the smart economy. The first of them is that when we use AI technologies, the urbanization processes can enhance a green or a smart cities or a smart building. At the same time, for example, if we pay attention to the electrification of urban center of the urbanization of some cities, we can see that the role of AI can enhance this, also giving a permanent information about the traffic, about the usage of different applications for sharing private transport, etc. So this is very exciting. And the third one is also connected with the tourism or the high tech related with tourism. If we talk about tourism, I'm not going to extend too much about this sector. So we have two types of tourism. We have dirty and clean tourism. The dirty tourism is that tourism that are not advanced economy are not interested in them because they are very poor. The whole region of tourism are dirty. They don't take care about renewable energy or about many things. But on the other hand, the clean and smart tourism tries to attract high-income touristic, but for that they need to promote renewable energy, electrification, clean infrastructure, and all of them are really very connected with AI and ICT. Well, this is the same. The other model, we obtain the same results. So we can say that the model presents growth results. And here we have the result that we have presented. And in all of them, the interaction effect of the moderation effect of ICT is very interesting. We have selected this explanatory variable, but if we use another one, we can try to validate the positive role of ICT over carbon emission. If, for example, I have another idea, carbon emission is one environmental degradation variable that has been widely used, but for example, I consider that ecological footprint offers a more attractive result. At the same time, we can change GDP with other variable like economic complexity that helps us to validate economic development instead of economic growth. For example, there is very big problem in traditional literature where many people or many researchers have used economic growth as interpreted as economic development, but this is not true. GDP is for economic growth, and economic growth and economic development is not the same. For that, we have nowadays other type of variable that help us to obtain very connected relationship between environmental degradation, and economic development related with economic complexity, for example. So finally, we found that ICT as proxy of artificial intelligence in this model can be a leading factor for sustainability, and maybe for coming year, this variable will appear in many research papers or in many studies, but I think that we have to take into account that even this variable will be very relevant for economists. There we still don't have enough period of time or enough experience for consider that this variable will be a total revolution. But I think that we can see that this variable will be at the same level that at the beginning of this century we have the mobile usage, or especially when we implemented in the mobile usage the use of internet. So this is the thing that I would like to share to you with this, that aim to show new ideas or to present how AI or new technologies can be implemented in economic studies and also in environmental processes, aim to obtain new results very close with the reality and helps us to predict forthcoming studies. Thank you so much for attending in this seminar. I would like to start a debate with people who has attended the seminar, and we have time to extend some comments and talk about them. And well, thank you for this. Okay, I'm here.
Thank you, Professor, for this very interesting presentation. Thank you so much. And now we have the Q&A session. If anyone wants to ask any question.
I hope.
That's the whole aim, right? Okay. I think the who was the first? I think the associate professor Burcu Türkcan was the first. We can start with her, and then we can continue with associate professor Özge Kozan.
Thank you very much for this wonderful presentation. It was good to hear something about the artificial intelligence and sustainable development relationship, because this year I am also interested in this subject and I am working on this subject. Actually, my question is about something fundamental. As I saw your model, you use the ICT as the proxy of the artificial intelligence, but actually we know that in the databases we have something more about the artificial intelligence. For example, AI patents, Stanford AI Index, AI startups, robot density. Why you use ICT as the indicator and not directly these indicators or one of these indicators?
Well, as I told at the beginning of the dear Burcu, thank you so much for your question and your interest in this paper. Well, as I told at the beginning of the presentation, when we prepared this paper, that it was 2-3 years ago, the data availability for AI were very reduced. You are right. For example, nowadays we have different sources. For example, we have Frontier Technologies Readiness Index. We have also artificial intelligence patent from WIPO. We also have. We can also create some index connecting, for example, telephone subscription, usage of internet. But for example, I think that the more interesting variable are the Frontiers Technology Index, that we have data for that. For example, another one that can be, well, the World Intellectual Property Organization have nowadays data. The United Nations Conference on Trade and Development also have offering some data, and I think that you are right. But during the last 2 years, we have experiment an increase in the number of database that we can use for that. But when we prepared this model, for us, were the way for understanding the ICT as role of new technologies and ascending of AI for this. Maybe it's not, as you have said, it's not the correct variable or the correct interpretation, but nowadays in current study, we are using this type of database because they are available during maybe the last 2-3 years, but not before, when we started with this.
Okay, thank you very much. We look forward for your new studies.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeni, thank you for
Hello.
taking time for us despite your busy schedule. My question has two sides actually. The first side, I think that we are omitting some other aspects of AI in political terms. I think, for example, who benefits from it, who produces it, or who pays all the costs. And in this respect, I think that a kind of a distributional issue having or possessing AI technologies, but of course not ICT technologies now, but when we look at the International Federation of Robotics data or other the artificial intelligence data, we can easily see that there is a distributional problem here. The first side is it is, and the second one is it is possible to understand the effect of AI on sustainability or environmental degradation without considering or checking the moderating or mitigating effects of the current inequalities. For example, we can use top 10 wealth share or top 10 income share, or as a proxy, maybe female income share can be considered. What do you think about the distributional side of the AI technologies?
Okay, Professor Kofal, thank you so much for your question. They are very interesting and they have very proof ones, so they are not easy for answer, but they are very interesting. Well, the first of all of distribution, I really have not taken the idea about which is the question. I think that it was connected with nowadays we have a lot of data about AI and we don't need to use ICT. We have nowadays different variable that we can use and we don't need to use, for example, this traditional variable that have been used during long time. And the second one, it's very interesting. Of course, we can consider AI as a variable of environment. If we check the direct effect of we check without any moderation, we can find which is nowadays the process. In fact, I think that maybe it would be interesting to explore the non-linear effect of AI over environment is like a type of IPC. But when we use the moderation is when we check other traditional variables, how they are moderated by the use of AI. For example, we cannot use AI for all variables that we want. For example, maybe in some sector the elasticity of the impact of this variable is very high. For example, in the industry or in modern industry, but for example, in traditional or primary sector is not very relevant, the role of AI. I think that we need to pay attention in which variable or which is the impact of the elasticity or the coefficient to check if this variable is relevant or not. Maybe we cannot use this variable like for everything. Maybe we have to be very concise and justify very strong in which variable, in which sector or which industry we can use it. For example, in tourism, it's very interesting. In the high-tech industry or foreign direct investment can be very interesting. In informatics sector is totally critical to understand it, but maybe in another traditional sector, primary, or some type of services are not relevant. Sorry, for example, I think that in education can be also very important, always if we can implement that with the studies or with the program for the student, because if, for example, if some traditional institution, we are keeping the program of 20 years ago, is not relevant to explore if AI is relevant for studies or for academics. But I think that we need to select exactly which sector we need for understanding not only environmental degradation, also relevant for understanding the impact over economies and the transition to technical processes or technical effect in a society, and to avoid the obsolescence or a frontier of technological frontiers.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I think the next one is our bachelor student, Derya Kush, and then we will have Professor Lenger.
Okay.
Yes, Derya.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Derya. First of
Hello.
all, thank you, Professor, for your presentation. It was very helpful for me because my term project is also about AI and energy. But I don't know, maybe it's from a different perspective because I want to examine the effects of AI data centers, excessive energy on carbon-2 emissions. And I will question whether renewable energy usage can reduce this negative effects. So my question is, what do you think about this increasing energy and resource demands, especially water and electricity of AI data centers? And do you think renewable energy can meet this high demand? Like, do you think it will be enough? Thank you.
Okay. Okay, there again. Well, I think that we have to be very careful with the over-explanation or over the exposition of AI in some sector with electricity. Electricity is, we mix a traditional and modern sector. And of course, AI is very important for this sector, especially if we talk about smart energy sector. And there are, for example, many, now there are many applications nowadays or some projects that try to advance or to predict the demand of electricity connected with AI. And also, for example, the usage of energy. I think that the AI can optimize the use of energy, not as a technology. I think that we cannot find big advances in efficiency of electricity sector with AI, but it's very useful in the consumption of energy and the prediction of energy usage, optimizing the processes of consumption. At the same time, it will reduce the emission and environmental degradation. This is my opinion nowadays, because now we can find different applications, or we can find different programs. Also, many industries have the prediction according with weather, with the type of energy that can be in the energy mix of the country, of the dealer, of. So I think that in this can optimize the consumption. At the same time, it has very positive externalities with the reduction of emission of environmental degradation, also reduce the price of the electricity, and at the same time, it can incentivize some technologies, but these technologies are more related with the industry of electricity and optimization of production processes that with the prediction. That is the way that I think that AI can be the big effect over the sector.
Okay, thank you so much.
Do you have any other question, or have I clarified that, or do you need another?
There was just the second part that I said, do you think renewable energy can meet this like high energy demand of these data centers?
Really, I don't know. I think that we don't have enough data nowadays for predicting this. I think that renewable energy is, in some cases, is a traditional sector that is more related with the optimization of a solar panel, of wind, that with the prediction of AI, of the usage of AI. I think that the AI is more related with the optimization in the energy mix usage of the consumption of energy, more than in the renewable sector. Maybe it's good for attracting a foreign industry with high tech in host countries, for example, attraction of renewable industry, and all the external industry around the renewable sector. It's my opinion nowadays. Maybe it cannot be correct, but it's my current perception of this.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your question, Daria. I think we have our head of department, Professor Lenger. Would you like to say something?
Yes. Thank you very much for for accepting our invitation, dear Dania, and for this nice presentation. I'd like to address my question about your methodology. As far as I know, the interaction models requires to calculate the marginal effects of the coefficients. But I haven't seen any marginal effects in your presentation. Will you consider to calculate marginal effects of the interacting terms?
Well, we applied the interaction with the moderation between ICT and any one of the selected variable, because for the moderation we have to use the single variable and after that the interaction. For example, we cannot use an interaction if we don't use the variables alone. We need to check, for example, ICT and urbanization, but we need to use both variable and after that use the moderation. For example, we cannot use one variable, ICT, and after that appear moderation ICT with urbanization without exploring the role of urbanization, because the moderation is reveals at how much, which is the effect of the damping effect of this variable with or without isolating this moderation. So I think that I've presented in the different model 2, 3, and 4 the interaction of the moderation effect of every single variables in different ones. I don't know if that was, I can put again the model, but that was that we used and we demonstrated how this variable was reducing the pernicious initial effect of this selected variable.
Yeah,
But-
right. But yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead, please.
No, please continue.
Yeah, but in the original model, if you are using interaction terms, the magnitude and even the magnitude and also the t statistics are not reliable. So you, in order to conclude about any moderation role, perhaps you may consider to calculate the marginal effects of those moderating variables. So that's a minor issue. I mean, I just wanted to attract your attention to this point. So if it's fine for you, totally perfect.
Yeah, we consider that because in first model we isolated without any moderation, and in the next study we were exploring the damping effect for any one of selected explanatory variables.
Yeah. Okay.
But we need
Okay,
but maybe you are right in some, or the interpretation, or in some cases the effect is not very realistic. So we have to reject that model and be very realistic. I think that also the variable applied. I selected this model because I wanted to express some limitation that we can find when we work, for example, with some variable as proxy. And for example, nowadays we are working in some paper directly with AI index or AI variables, and the net effect between the isolation and the moderation or dampen effect is more realistic and can present more exciting results, especially if you want to publish in a good journal, or you want to make the attention to the editors, because nowadays we have too many information and too many papers without telling same things. So for that, for example, using delay, using interconnection, create your own index, justified or based in previous literature. Nowadays it's very interesting for obtaining good results in production.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there anyone who would like to ask any question or comments? Maybe I can ask another one while waiting for the others. My question is about the proxies or indicators you use to measure ICT actually. If I'm not wrong, in the slide you shared, in parentheses you said it's the percentage of internet usage, right? Is this true?
Yes.
Okay, so but because we cannot read the paper now, I can't see the how can I say the statistics about these variables and how the variation. I mean, the data set consists of OECD countries, right? When we use the percentage of internet users as an indicator, can we really see a variation among those countries are, because it's going to affect the whole measurement and the whole model results, right? I think when we use that kind of indicator that cannot fully reflect the technological capacity, and when we use the EU countries or OECD countries as a sample, we cannot see that much variation in this variable, right? Do you believe that this will change the results of your model? Can we use any other more comprehensive or maybe detailed indicator to reflect those variations?
Yes, you are right. Well, as I told you in the presentation, the limitation of this seminar, of this paper, was the use of ICT. Well, till 2-3 years ago, the use of ICT and the availability of data were the tools that we have to start implementing this type of technologies. Nowadays, we have a very relevant sources. For example, we have from WIPO, we have from United Nations direct variables related with AI. For example, we have the Frontier Technology Index database, or also we have artificial intelligence patterns that can be used totally in this context and can discriminate as Professor Prof told, the distribution of AI in different countries. Maybe if we check now, we can compare which is the impact of AI in developed or developing countries. For example, exploring the number of patents or the usage of high tech related with AI. Now, this is the current of the whole topic nowadays. I think that we need to explore this now because now we have data. And with this new situation, we can talk about this. And for example, at the same as I told, we can reduce the use of economic growth and advance in another variable more related for understanding the development, that economic complexity or human development or education that can us to understand a new context or global context, because I think that the society is not necessary to be too worried about economic growth. Nowadays, with the new global situation, I think that the development of economic development, the advances in human rights, the advances in democracy, reducing the corruption are very relevant for new era or new situation, because if we pay attention, we are very worried about economic growth in the middle of the last centuries till the end of the Second World War. And we have not paid too much attention to this variable that are very relevant nowadays for economists, that is the role of economic development or the human rights or human development or education. For this, I think that we need to pay not only in environmental models, also can be combined with environmental models. We need to advance in this variable, and nowadays with data about AI, we can check. We can have very advances in coefficient, or we can have good results aimed for predicting a policy recommendation, global performances, or this thing that I think that is the role that we need to prepare as science. We need to give answer to these questions, not only predict the economic growth, because economic growth, all of us know when it's increased, decrease, the externalities and the process. But I think with the all information we have, we can be more concise and have a new battery of concepts that can be implemented for administration or for government, or maybe, for example, in our case, European Union or in Europe, or etc., or also to reduce or predict the conflicts.
Yes, exactly. Actually, this was my second question. When you take a look from the European Green Deal or European level, what we should expect? Like, what is the policy recommendation of those studies? Maybe what we should expect from the European agenda regarding AI from the governance perspective or ethical perspective. Can you say something about it?
Well, this is very complicated question, because if you ask me about traditional European Union, I'm very skeptic about the future of European Union as economic bloc. We are in risk for losing many opportunities for being an advanced economy or technological advanced economy. And for example, at academic level, I think that we need to grow. We need to advance. If we check for example, the international rankings of academic rankings, we can see that in the first position during the last year are a lot of Chinese institutions, some American institutions, but in Europe are decreasing the position in academic of technology of knowledge. In that, I think that if, for example, if Europe doesn't advance in the economy of knowledge, or they don't advance in promote academic advances, we are in risk to be to lose an opportunity for being at the first level, international level, and have poor rates in the future. We also have some problem with the rate of migration, not controlling the way that we need to readapt our economy to the global context. We need to implement new jobs. We need to attract for example, high-tech industry. We need to attract academics, and we are losing a lot of this, and we are not. I think that we have many ideas, we have good institutions, but we cannot sleep in this sense, because we are losing good opportunities, and many countries, especially in Asia, are growing very fast. And we can, in forthcoming decades, we can lose an hegemonic position in technology or academic levels or advanced economies. So I think that there are very big limitations that we need to correct in Europe. Also, we need to promote renewable energy, but I'm a little skeptic about the overuse of electric cars. There were politics about avoid petrol, fossil usage in car, but I think that we need to make a mix more moderated than the idea to prohibit or forbid traditional combustion car. I'm very skeptic about the Green Deal.
Thank you so much for this detailed explanation. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Then thank you so much for being with us today. It was an exceptional presentation. We are so happy to have you. Would you like to say something before we're closing the session?
For me, thank you so much for this invitation and giving me this opportunity to participate in this seminar. And I open to any type of project or any type of collaboration that your institution demand from my side. And thank you so much also Professor Kozal, because she gave me the opportunity for participate here and invited me in the first moment. And well, if anything, if I can support your institution in any way, or we can make any type of proactive collaboration between institutions, I'm open to that. Thank you so much for this invitation and this opportunity.
Thank you. It is really nice to hear that. I am sure that we will reach out to you for different types of collaborations. So thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have you here. And thank you everyone for their attendance. This is the end of the session, and see you in the next seminars. Bye-bye.
Bye.